Expo 99.1 FM.
Burby's 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Good day, welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. Even as landowners in Region 3 fume over the presence of a natural gas pipeline on their properties, causing disruption and fear, the Minister of Natural Resources, Vikram Bharat, is confident that government's plans to develop the gas-to-energy project will not be deterred by concerned citizens. At the sidelines of a meeting hosted on Friday at the West Demerara Secondary School, where landowners that will be affected by the pipeline were engaged, Minister Bharat said he does not foresee any hiccups along the land acquisition process. About 25 landowners between Newville, Flanders and Canal Number 1 in Region 3 received a document outlining the measurement of the land that will be required for the pipeline, along with the cost the government is willing to pay based on valuation process already completed. A number of landowners said they're not satisfied with the offer made by the government for their lands. And a 17-year-old motorcyclist is now the 7th road fatality in the last 10 days after he crashed into a car on Saturday along the Silver Hill Public Road, Linden-Soesdijk Highway. Dead is Stanton Garwe of Kairuni Village. The youth met his demise around 14 hours 25 while reportedly speeding north along the western side of the road. According to police investigators, he had crashed into a hire car driven by 50-year-old Augustine Klaas, a taxi driver of the same village. Meanwhile, Guyana will finally get its own law school now that the Council of Legal Education has accepted a proposal by Guyana for the school to be managed by the council, but this country will provide the building and the land. Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal made the announcement on Sunday. He said the decision to give Guyana the clearance was taken last week during a meeting of local representatives and members of the council in Barbados. Meanwhile, Mr. Nandlal has defended Guyana's local content legislation, insisting that crimes related to the act can be probed by the Guyana Police Force. Nandlal at the time was responding to an article published by Kaieteur News on Friday, where a New York-based attorney-at-law Dr. Vivian Williams pointed out some of the loopholes he believes can hinder its effectiveness. One of the lawyer's observations is that while the Act uses the local content secretariat to regulate the extent to which the foreign firms have access to procurement opportunities in the oil and gas sector, this body has no power to investigate firms in the local market. However, Guyana's Attorney General has made it clear that crimes related to the Local Content Act will not be swept under the proverbial rug, as the Guyana Police Force is vested with the power to conduct investigations in this regard. And moving on, while the government of Guyana is being lauded for finally granting the request for sweeper or cleaners to receive monthly salaries at the prevailing minimum wage of the public service, the Guyana Public Service Union believes a more permanent employment arrangement should have been made or offered. The GPSU noted in a statement that while it is heartened at the move by the government, the years of service given to the country by sweeper or cleaners warrants them being co-opted into permanent pensionable establishment. The GPSU said it had always clearly expressed this requirement to government as it is considered most deserving to the security of tenure. And now let's tell you, an agreement between neighbors Guyana and Suriname for the latter to deliver 150 SK fishing licenses allowing Guyanese to operate there has hit a snag as local authorities say they have exhausted all diplomatic routes in addressing the matter. As a consequence, Guyana's ambassador to Suriname, Keith George, was recently summoned by the interim Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Business and International Cooperation, Krishna Mathura, following statements made by Guyanese Vice President Bharat Jagdeo alleging corruption in the issuance of fishing licenses. This move made by Suriname prompted the Guyana government to issue a statement on Saturday detailing its efforts to diplomatically resolve the issue. Despite these efforts, Guyana said the desired outcome has not yet been achieved, and Guyanese fishermen continue to be harassed by Suriname's authorities. Notwithstanding, the government said it remains committed to good neighborly relations with Suriname. You're listening to Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. This is your news at noon. We'll take a short break and return.
Soca meets dancehall just got bigger with dancehall's newest superstar, Skilly Bang, and the king of soca, Marshall Montero. And if that wasn't enough, we just added the queen of dancehall, Spice.
I know you like the way I came down to the sheet.
One stage, one night only. 3 of the Caribbean's most energetic performers. It will be an experience like no other. Tune after tune, hit after hit. Marshall, Spice, Skilly, and many more. Live at the Guyana National Stadium on Saturday, 1st of October. Early bird tickets, general $5,000. Stage front, $150 USD. Brought to you by the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, Ministry of Tourism, and the Cricket Carnival Committee.
Talk about faster internet, talk about stable internet. We bringing fiber to Guyana, boy.
Burpees, we've got you. Rose Hall and New Amsterdam. It's your turn. GTT Fiber Plus Voice is coming your way soon. Get the most reliable internet service available in Guyana. GTT, reliably connecting customers, community by community.
Fiber to Guyana, boy.
Wanting to protect your family during these difficult times of COVID-19 is natural.
Stay at home, wash your hands often, and don't touch your face.
Yes, Daddy.
But are you doing these things too? And do you practice social distancing? Do you keep 3 to 6 feet away when you're shopping? Or at least stay an arm's length away in the supermarket? Remember, children learn from adults. So if you're not obeying the precautions, neither will they. We have to work towards the new normal together to keep our families safe and protected. Be part of the solution, don't add to the problem. Teach by example and do the right things.
A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. A sergeant of the Guyana Defense Force, Timian McPherson, was on Friday seriously injured after a rehearsal jump for the upcoming Caribbean Premier League cricket finals went wrong at the Providence National Stadium. The sergeant had reportedly crash-landed into some seats located in the green stand. According to a statement sent out by the GDF, McPherson sustained injuries to his chest and abdomen. He is presently admitted at the Georgetown Public Hospital. The GDF described him as a seasoned parachute jumper and has been with the Army since 2012. Throughout his career, he has had 27 free fall jumps and over 50 static line jumps, but on Friday, an accident occurred. And with very little representation of oil and gas workers in the sector, labor rights stakeholders continue to highlight the woes of local employees, with specific reference now being made toward petroleum staffers being placed on contracts and how employers are able to circumvent their responsibility to them. In an invited comment, the Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union expressed their concern over the current approach to petroleum workers, who in many instances have pointed out cases of mistreatment and non-compliance with labor laws by their employers. Meanwhile, the Caribbean Community Secretariat, in partnership with the International Organization for Migration and the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security, last week concluded a meeting of regional stakeholders to discuss the integration of a regional migration policy, as mandated by the CARICOM heads of government. The Caribbean Regional Approach to Migration Policy meeting brought together representatives from 5 community institutions in St. Michael, Barbados, to focus on ways that migration dynamics, migrants, and related cross-cutting issues influence the work of the institutions, CARICOM said in a press release. And now let's tell you, World Contraception Day takes place every year on the 26th of September today. It falls under the international human rights laws and aims to create awareness of all contraception, which is family planning methods available. Launched in 2007, exactly 15 years ago, we can say that contraception as a right includes the ability to choose when to have a child, the number of children and with whom, the ability to exercise sexuality freely with pleasure and without coercion or violence, the ability to have rights and access opportunities to methods allowing people to plan their life's journey. And it also includes being counseled of the details, risks and benefits of pregnancies and of each contraceptive method. With the time now moving on to 12 hours 15, close things off with the page 7 of today's Kaieteur News. What President Ali is not telling you. The president says that Guyanese are benefiting from this oil wealth, but he neglects to mention those who are making out like Bill Gates and Mukesh Ambani, and those left choking on the dust and the noise of all this oil-related activity. While the president hits high notes on the building of hotels almost all over, he overlooks that some money laundering is part of the mix and dangerous for this country. As the president propagandizes, he conveniently forgets to mention that the jobs he speaks of from those sectors and others are of the bottom feeding level and represent the new servant class in Guyana. Moreover, the building craze in the hospitality sector is nothing but the beginnings of separating the hordes of incoming foreigners from the dirty, smelly, sickly mass of natives. The only Guyanese to be seen around outsiders would be those shining their shoes and polishing their car doors among similar menial offerings. Our brothers and sisters in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait have foreigners waiting on them, hand and foot, because of their oil. But here we are doing those waiting duties for those coming in to exploit our riches in a variety of upstream and downstream activities. And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising?